Okay, I think we're all set. Welcome, everybody. This is Self and Small Press Publishing, making your own way in the comics industry. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I'll start by introducing our esteemed panelists, starting at the far end and working our way back to me. So Bryant Dillon is the co-founder and president of Fanbase Press, an award-winning independent comic book publisher and geek culture website. He's the co-host of the Fanbase Weekly podcast, which will release its 300th episode later this year. And his writing credits include Fanbase Press's first two graphic novels, Something Animal and Identity Thief, California Cold Blood Books' The Odds, the auto drama adaptation, contribution to McFarlane's The Comics of Joss Whedon, and more. Sitting next to him is his better half. Barbra is the co-founder and editor-in-chief of Fanbase Press, a GLAAD Media award-winning and Eisner and Harvey Awards-nominated publishing company and media outlet that seeks to produce new and distinctive works that give voice to the themes, ideals, and people that make quote-unquote geekdom so exceptional. She also serves as a board member of the Graphic Medicine International Collective and Comics Library Commons, an executive committee member for the Latinx Comic Arts Festival, and an advisory board member of the Santa Monica Comics Company. Welcome, Barbra. Next to Barbra is Jessica Mason, who is a Nebula Award-winning comic creator, author, and screenwriter. Plastic Girl is her coming-of-age eco-punk novel trilogy set in a climate apocalypse. Her comic series, Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, is an IBPA Benjamin Franklin Gold Award winner and Forward Indies finalist. She co-wrote the upcoming Gothic space horror series, Host Planet, and co-directed the time travel feature film, Own Worst Enemy. Her short fiction and comics appear in publications such as Terraform, Nightmare Theater, Systemic, and Distorted Horror. She is the founder of Wicked Tree Press and the co-host of the Monster v. Monster podcast. Arthur Ebuen started as an animator on Futurama and The Simpsons. Over the last 2 decades, he's since moved on to tell other brand stories as an associate creative director in advertising and as a producer, writer, and director for video and film production. Art has written the geopolitical thriller California Inc., published the sci-fi anthology Systemic, and crime drama West Side. He's now working on the new horror anthology Disrupted Tales with Justin Giampaoli, all through Studio 12/7. Welcome, Art. Justin Giampaoli's sharp voice and insightful commentary earned his acclaim as an award-winning critic at 13 Minutes for over a decade. As a writer and editor, Justin's portfolio includes work at DC Vertigo, Dark Horse, Boom Studios, Made Fire, Image, and Studio 12/7. His standout creations are the self-published crime caper, The Mercy Killing, introductions and bonus content for the New York Times bestseller DMZ at DC's Vertigo imprint, the alt history epic Rome West, and the sci-fi drama Starship Down, both with artist Andrea Moody at Dark Horse. Justin recently brought his editorial touch to geopolitical thriller California Inc. and horror anthology Disrupted Tales at Studio 12/7. His latest writing project is West Side, a haunting crime drama illustrated by Dave Law, which is already generating buzz for its raw authenticity.
It's so good.
And last, but definitely not least, is Ryan Claytor, who is the coordinator of the Comic Art and Graphic Novel Minor and associate professor at Michigan State University, where he teaches comics studio courses and spearheaded the interdisciplinary comics minor between the art and English departments. Ryan's creative achievements include 6 Small Press and Alternative Comics Expo prizes and nominations for the Eisner and Ringo Awards. He is known for his self-published nonfiction comics, including his autobiographical series, And Then One Day, his 20-year retrospective art book, One Bite at a Time, His collaborative work on Coin-Op Carnival, Electrifying Tales of Mechanical Contraptions, and the comics adaptation of his grandfather's poem about empathy, A Hunter's Tale. Ryan's international client list includes Moleskine, Stern Pinball, Verizon Wireless, Mr. Jones Watches, and more. You guys have too many accomplishments across all of you.
Time for questions, no panel.
Now to get you all talking. So I'm going to start with art. What made you decide to create and publish through Studio 12/7 rather than simply pitch your own work to traditional publishers?
I know a guy. Studio 12/7 is my own thing, and I originally wanted to do the traditional route that Justin taught me, which is the way he did, which is pitch doc, maybe 4 pages, and maybe 2 to 3 pages of art, and see if a established publisher like an Image or a Dark Horse or even Vertigo or something, or hey, what do you think? And you wait 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, a year to get nothing, or yes, and then don't see anything about it for 2 years. And in that process of kind of going to different folks within the industry to ask more about it, I ran into a bunch of Kickstarters and self-publishers. And I don't know how old some of you are in here, but I know in the publishing world, self-publishing sounds like the old stigma was, oh, you couldn't get published. So that's kind of where my head was. But I saw that through research that more and more people were doing things on their own. He had full control. Look at Ryan's head nodding. You know, he loves some self-publishing. And so at that point, it was the only person in my way was me and just getting funded. But I found some extra cash underneath the bed and found an artist to help me make the first issue come to life, so that when I did kickstart the book, I wanted the prospective audience to see that the book was done. You're not waiting for me to possibly make the book with the funds that you're funding us with, and you're going to get a book within 2 months. And we did, and kept that going. And so, going back to your question before I went further than that, it was an empowering conversation from a few people, notably Charlie Stickney, who's in the world of kickstarting and self-publishing. He was one of the catalysts. I went to a self-publishing panel that really lit the fire and said, hey, this is the route I need to go. I can control my own destiny if I want to. And once that bug bit me, it's not like lettuce, but it got me.
Justin, what about you? You spent years analyzing comics as a critic before publishing your own work. Was there a moment when you realized you wanted to stop simply discussing comics and start creating them yourself?
There wasn't a specific moment. I had a kind of a long, circuitous path to get to self-publishing. Being a critic at my website, 13 Minutes, for 10 years, I was in a really cool position where I was able to meet a ton of artists and writers and editors and publishers, and slowly started to get asked to edit books or do special projects for publishers, and eventually pitching and writing and pitching my own work. And I came up at a time in the industry 10, 15 years ago where the prevalent model was still pitching to publishers. And I had a couple kind of old school creators that really mentored me in that direction. And I did that very hardcore for 5 years, pitched to a bunch of publishers, had, I guess, moderate success doing that, got some projects published at DC, at Dark Horse, at some smaller digital publishers like Madefire. I found that I did not enjoy the pitching process at all for a variety of reasons, and it really took years of encouragement, initially from Ryan and later with Art, to get me back into writing comics, not just editing comics, and has culminated with this crime book, West Side, that is available in Artist Alley now.
So good.
So I guess just to sum up, if I was going to give someone advice, I would say just be open to different possibilities. Don't lock yourself into any one way of thinking or one way of approaching, trying to break into the industry. I could have never predicted or planned my career path. So just be open to those possibilities that are presented to you.
Thanks. Okay, so I want to move on to more of like the business foundations. And Jessica, many of your projects explore themes like climate change, folklore, social justice, and education. How do you balance creating such meaningful work with building a sustainable publishing business?
Well, some of those things don't sell very good. Well, not good. And so what I try to do is, Plastic Girl is a novel, is a trilogy, and it's very much exploring my fears around what my daughter's future might look like. And I want to have some fun with it, but it is definitely darker. And what I do is I do a project that is completely for me, and hopefully the world wants to read it or it can find its audience. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't. Like, I wrote it, and then I write one that is a little bit more focused on hitting a market. And I do that with Mary Shelley. When I came into comics, I was late to the game in comics because I came from film and TV, and then I wrote the books. Then I got into comics. I very much watched a lot of some folks here and kind of what people were doing, how they were navigating this business, and I was really excited by what all the independent folks were doing and what they were doing successfully. And so I try to explore all those dark themes in Mary Shelley's School for Monsters, but I pull in elements that I know that people like. They like a school with magic, they like monsters, they like a gang of friends who are gonna go do it. And every once in a while they can get into some dark and heavy stuff, but you can also hit a market and people's interests. And so when I did do this first book, and this was probably my most financially successful book so far, is the Mary Shelley series, is that I was kind of learning that, my first comic was called Pistol, and it was an exploration of learning how to do a comic, but it was a sex trafficking, a vigilante that did that, and that just slammed right on its face. And I learned okay, everyone can't write Batman, not right away. You have to do it. So yeah, it is a little bit, a learning curve for sure. But yeah, I try to put a little laughter and fun and bright colors in there, and then hopefully we can, and not to beat people over the head with the message. That was a little bit rambling, but that is how I do it.
Oh, very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ryan, I guess somewhat related, you have a very diverse body of work, from deeply personal projects like A Hunter's Tale to a pinball zine. When you're starting a new project, how do you decide whether it's commercially viable, a passion project, or some combination of both?
Man, well, I would argue that pinball is also very personal, but I think all the projects I take on are passion projects. If they're not, why am I doing them? I'm not trying to chase a trend or something that's hot at the moment. I could not see a project through to fruition if that was my motivation. So really it's what's getting me up in the morning, what's exciting me, what makes me want to hop on the drawing board or the computer to write. And I'm in a fortunate position where I am a professor at a Big Ten university where I teach comics as well as make comics. So comics for me are not the things that are putting food on the table and paying mortgage. So I'm able to choose whatever projects I want to do. So I feel very fortunate to be able to do that. But yeah, I would argue that every single project I do is a passion project, and I would hope that everybody who's producing something is also producing passion projects of their own.
I mentioned to Justin that I might ask you this question, and he told me I bet he's going to say everything's a passion project. So you're consistent.
He knows me well.
I want to jump over to Barbra. If someone looked at your publishing model today, what would they say is your biggest strength or your defining approach?
That's a really good question. I think it's multifaceted. I think that we've been doing this for 16 years now, and we have intentionally built a catalog that has something for everyone all different age demographics, all different genres, but that all contain the same ethos within the mission statement of our company, which is to have impactful stories with characters that will not only resonate with you and will offer messages, but that really at the heart of it will leave you asking questions and inviting conversation about important topics, especially surrounding marginalized voices and marginalized stories. And I think, I don't know if you would answer that as well, but I think it's at the end of the day, every story that we put out, we want to invite conversation because storytelling is so impactful and has such a capability for connecting us, for allowing us to engage with empathy with one another, and what greater gift that we could have than helping people to engage with their empathy.
Yeah, thank you. Justin, what does sustainability mean to you as an independent creator? Is it financial or creative freedom, audience growth, or something else entirely?
I would say it is a mix of creative freedom and what I would call return on investment, and I don't mean financially. I'll explain that in 1 second. Creative freedom, pure and simple. Every single time I have had a project published at a traditional publisher, it was compromised in some way. The length was compromised, or I had to include something story-driven that was like an editorial mandate, or in one case, had to work with a colorist I wasn't a huge fan of. So really publishing West Side with art at Studio 12-7 is the first time that in my entire comics career, I have been able to produce a project that is 100% faithful to my original vision. And it is the length I want, the art style I want, the creative team I want, and it's just so much more enjoyable creatively. With return on investment, I don't mean financially. It really comes down to when I was pitching comics to traditional publishers, one of the things I did not enjoy about that was how much work you have to do behind the scenes that is typically not compensated. And the first 5 years that I really pitched hardcore aggressively to traditional publishers, I pitched over 100 projects, about 120 projects over a 5-year period. And I kept obsessive metrics around what day of the week am I publishing or pitching a publisher? Does that matter? What time of day? How long does it take for them to return an email? Is it days, weeks, months, never in some cases? How long does a project take to get greenlit? How long does it take to get rejected? So I had 5 years worth of really fascinating data. And essentially what that told me was if I pitched 100 projects, statistically I would get 7 greenlit, and of that 7, 3 to 4 would get published. So I'm operating at a 3 to 4% success rate. I come from a business background. I've worked at large companies, small companies, different industries, the federal government, Fortune 100 company. If you take a 3 to 4% success rate and apply it to any other business, it would be an abject failure. So, but that's the way traditional comic book publishing works. So just to sum up that thought, with self-publishing, there's no pitch process. If I want to create a book now, Art and I go to lunch and we say, well, do you want to do your book next or my book next? Or do you want to do an anthology next? Or if you have the energy of art, you say all of the above. And we end up doing that. So self-publishing has just taken a large chunk of the process away that for me personally, I did not enjoy. So that's where I see sustainability for my path.
There is one anecdotal thing about me as the publisher for Justin's book website, West Side. Initially, after reading the first 5 issues, I said, hey, it'd be cool if we cut the whole first issue. Talk about like cutting stories. Like, what if we start right at 2? And you're like, no, don't do that to my story, please. It's like, thought I'd ask.
Okay, so I want to kind of shift gears and talk about audience building. And like Barbara said, Bryant, you and she have had 16 years of experience doing this. So Fanbase Press built a reputation by reviewing, interviewing, and promoting other creators, not just by publishing its own books. How did that strategy help build trust with readers, and what can newer creators learn from that approach?
I definitely think that newer creators can learn from it. For us, we were waiting for the production of our book, so it was almost out of necessity that we started doing this. Our first title, we knew that it was going to be at least a year for the art to be produced the way the artist was proceeding. And so we had a friend recommend that we should start trying to do a comic review a week, post a blog, you know? And so that just kind of led to us creating our own content and eventually realizing, well, we have a small platform here that we can offer to our colleagues or to our peers. And I don't know that everyone needs to follow that exact model, but what I would say is that the thing that has been a key to success to us and has been a key to success to many that I've seen is understanding that it's a community. You know, comics is a community. Whether you are going to be supporting others through your specific website or other means, you're going to find other ways to support them. You know, and that feedback, that building of relationships pays off in ways that you can't imagine. I mean, you get the I guess the undefinable end of it, the spiritual side of it, almost that Justin was saying about the projects, where it's like, you know, some of this is just about what we forget that this is art. We're all creating art, and it's a human experience, and it needs to be shared, and you get something that can't be bought out of that experience, you know? And it compels you to not only feel like you've found a place where you are accepted, but also inspires you to keep creating and create in different ways and challenge yourselves. So I guess the advice that I would give out of that is just be open to the idea that you're not in a competition with everyone else. You know, this is a welcoming community, and you will find not adversaries or not rivals here, but friends, collaborators. Comics is naturally a collaborative medium, and you know that extends beyond, I think, just being artist, writer, editor. I think it extends into the community itself. It's why we all, I think, here continue to create in this medium.
Cool. I'm very much an outsider to the comics industry, but I think it's undeniable, even from where I stand, how good art is at networking, building those relationships, and marketing.
Yes, 100% yes.
Art, you've worked in industries where creativity and business have to coexist every day. What's one thing independent comics creators could borrow from professional marketing or advertising that would immediately help their publishing efforts?
One? Oh, man.
This is Art's question.
That's, I mean, don't stop talking about it. But authentically talk about it. I mean, it might work for somebody to be like selfie mode, hey, fam, or whatever kids say, you know, check out my new comic. Nah, that's not me. But my version of that is, as Bryant said, is I'm going to go meet other creators. I love meeting other creators. I love talking about their projects and how maybe we could possibly collaborate or not. Just meet them, and then through that process, you know, meeting possible readers and just get the word out there. But just coming from an advertising background, there's not enough advertising for you out there. Don't stop talking about it, because ain't nobody gonna see it. It's not, if you build it, they will come. If you build it, they don't know, they're not gonna see it. So people who know me have heard this joke. You never stop knowing who McDonald's is because they have the highest advertising budget. Don't stop. If you love the thing you did, talk about it. Bring it up. Be proud of it. Push it out there. Let people know it's available and people know where to find it, you know? Yeah.
Cool.
I also wanted to jump in real quick. I was talking with Justin, tooting Art's horn, just yesterday morning about how Art does not only go to other creators and talk to them about their projects, but then he will follow up with them afterward, which I think is probably the more difficult thing to do is, you can meet someone at a convention and say hello, but to get their contact information, follow up, say hello, post about them on your own socials, and develop that relationship rather than just that one-time hello. I think that is something that art excels at, and I wish I could suck a little of that art magic from him.
I would
be
agree,
more-
because I met Art and suddenly Art was everywhere in my life, and I was like, what happened?
I'm sorry.
You
can't get rid of him.
Emphasizing too
But
hard?
not in a bad way, not in a bad way. So
Am I
do-
talking too much about myself out there?
No, it's perfect. But I'm saying you figured out something, I think, that a friend told me recently, and I've been, it's so hard because I'm not a natural social media person. So I do a lot of newsletter stuff and try to do content, that I think people might want around monsters because, that's me. But it's like, try to get people to be interested in your story without asking them to buy your book or do that. Not to the direct ask, it's like so tricky. And I think the big publishers and their publicity have a way of doing it that I wish that I could get more, bring more into my world and something Art does too. It's just like this genuine, you need to be genuine. No, I went off topic. So
Yeah, I know.
what you do is separate, that's separate. What I'm talking about is, when you're asking your audience to buy into what you're doing, it's tricky because you don't want to ask them directly to buy stuff, but you do have to ask them to buy stuff, because at the ultimate end of the day, you're telling a story, you need to share it, and to continue to tell the story, you need to make money. So it's like having what they do really well is messaging that over and over again, but in a way that is different each time, but the same and feels familiar. And I wish I had a team that could do that for me, and that's what I would borrow from them, is like that whole team that does that, because I don't have the funds for it. And their advertising budget, yeah, because just ads alone, I would, if I could have their budget, that'd be great.
I'm going to combine a couple of things here, both what Bryant said and what Ryan was talking about is
Yeah.
Ryan. I'm sure your names get mixed up all the time. Something that I heard at a Kickstarter panel a couple of years ago, which resonated with me, was for indie folks, we just want to see each other win.
Yeah.
Like that means so much to me with the whole community thing. It's true. Like, full offense to any of my friends who have done a short film that I don't like. If I was there to help you or if I see it happen, the fact that it was done, like, heck yeah, good job, because we all know how hard it is to make anything come to life. We all have that one friend, the arm around your shoulder, like, imagine, like, yeah, you have an idea, but you didn't execute anything. But once it's done, no matter how good or bad it is, yes.
Yeah.
And how fun is that? I mean, we get to pick our coworkers. When you're in a corporate job, you sometimes don't want to fist bump that one person, but here I'm getting to pick my coworkers, and when they do something awesome, I'm going to tell people about it because I'm happy for them, and they're just as happy for me. So it just it's like being in summer camp all the time with our friend. I don't know, it's cool.
Well, so that's all well and good, but I do want to talk about asking people to buy stuff and talk about crowdfunding and revenue streams. So Ryan, you have a ton of experience and success with Kickstarter. Many creators see crowdfunding as the dream solution, but what realities about crowdfunding should creators understand before launching their first campaign?
That's a great question. So I fall toward the end of the spectrum that does believe that crowdfunding is the dream solution, because I've been publishing my work for over 20 years at this point, and I have had to tithe my own paycheck and put it away in a bank account and try to guess at the number of books that I'd have to make and overprint and have those books still lining my basement to this day. Sorry, honey. But now with the advent of crowdfunding, you can build an audience. You can see exactly, I shouldn't say exactly, you should see much closer to the number of books that you should produce. So it is, in my estimation, the biggest, best, most amazing resource to self-publishers to come along in my 20 some odd years of self-publishing. With that said, yes, there is a ton of work that goes into crowdfunding. And when you do your first one, it's going to be completely and utterly nerve-wracking. So prepare yourself for that. It's also a lot of work designing the page. Then it's a lot of work telling people about it, because people don't just come if you build it. You have to let them know it's there. So building that production time, that promotional time, that entire 30-day, month-long rah-rah, sis-boom-bah, hoorah about your project into your life, because it's like another full-time job at that point. That is not to scare anybody off. Those are realities of crowdfunding, but it also gets easier every time you do it. It gets a little less nerve-wracking each time you do it. It gets a little easier to build that page each time you do it. So don't worry if it feels stressful at first. It feels stressful to everyone at first and second and third, but a little less so each time. So I think that may have answered your question.
Yeah, I think so.
And one thing I just wanted to add to that is Kickstarter allows you, and crowdfunding allows you to do the ask, but in a way that you're like tying into community. You're like, join this community with me, help me build this thing, let me give you cool things in return, and let's start a conversation. And that is why I really like crowdfunding, because it allows you to have a conversation about asking for money, but you're saying, come buy into this story with me. I'm very passionate about it. And you're telling them a story of why they should want to be part of making this project, and why they're, in a way, they're the producers, they're the executive producers getting involved, and you're able to reward them and give something back to them that's extra. And so I think that's another positive aspect of doing your funding in that way, but yeah.
Barbra, you're really good at doing that in person in terms of engaging your community and inviting them into the conversation. And Fanbase Press has been exhibiting at conventions for years. How do you evaluate whether a convention is worth attending, and what advice would you give creators exhibiting for the first time?
That's a good question. So in terms of exhibiting for the first time, I think it's good to be measured in the size of the convention that you take on. I would never say that San Diego Comic-Con should be your first convention. Start small. Start at a one-day show. Start at a show that you've been to in your community as an attendee that you can go to and have a reasonable fee, or even there are a lot of shows that have free tables, and just get started. Talk to the people, and even before you do that, talk to the people who are exhibiting at the show. Go as an attendee, engage with them, ask questions. How, if you don't mind me asking, how much did you pay for this table? Are there things that you prepared for at this show that you would suggest that I do? Write out a list of questions, get to know these people. Obviously be mindful of their time, because they are in many cases paying to be there, so you don't want to monopolize their time when they want to be selling. And if you have the means, buy something from them. If they've given you information, I think that's just a good gesture of goodwill. But in terms of, I apologize, Lauren, what was the initial question?
In terms of whether a convention is worth attending and evaluating. Yeah.
That can be, I think that is a case-by-case basis. We have a formula that we utilize, a financial formula of, is this a financially viable show for us? But at the same time, sometimes there are shows that are bigger swings that might be more beneficial from a marketing perspective. And you really just have to judge, what are my resources right now? Do I have the finances? If it would be really helpful for me to make a splash in terms of marketing, do I have the finances to be able to do that? And it's really, again, a case-by-case basis, weighing your options, weighing your finances. And I think the most important thing to know is there's no one right answer. It really comes down to what's best for you. So you decide for you, do you have the resources for this? Do you have the time for it? Are you a little nervous to go to a big show? Should we start with a smaller show? These are all reasonable questions to be asking yourself. And again, there's no one right or wrong answer. It's what's best for you.
Cool. Jessica, I want to pose this question to you, because not everybody encounters comics at shows like this or even at a comic shop. And you produce work in so many different medias and genre. How have you approached reaching readers through bookstores, libraries, schools, and other community spaces?
A lot of hard work. It's a lot of, I mean, for me, for libraries, I started locally. And, you know, I did a lot of research of like what a librarian is looking for, what certain reviews you need to get on your books so that they'll even, you know, consider having them in their database, especially if you're an indie creator, self-published creator. And honestly, if you're just getting started, the best way with a library or a school is to start locally in your own community and your own district and reach out to the people who do that. See if I have a lot of educator friends, so I'm like, hey, I have this title, we could talk about climate. I have a whole presentation, a whole thing, you know, in a package, and they don't have to pay for it, but, you know, and then start reaching out in that way. So I think you want to start very small at first. And then I join organizations that I think, you know, would benefit, because I am very much slowly working. I do want my books to be in libraries and in bookstores because they're middle grade more than, you know, I want them to be in comic book shops too, but, you know, ultimately they're more of probably a bookstore thing. And it's a lot of work. It's like you have to have your titles on certain, you know, if you do novels or books and you're doing it yourself, you need to have them up like on Ingram Spark, you know, so that librarians and schools and stores can order them, you know, and then you have to figure out like how much can I afford to charge for this book? How much do I have to charge for this book based on the printing to make sure that I can even have a bookstore order it, because you have to give them a 55% discount. And so you have to learn this whole other, if you're doing it on your own, and that's what we're talking about, you have to learn this whole other business to try to reach out and do that. And then still, once you do all that right, you know, bookstores only hold, you know, we know that most books published don't make a ton of money, even when you're the top big 5. So you have to give yourself a lot of grace while you go through this process, because you will think, I'm going to sell all these books to all these schools and all these libraries, and I've done all the work right, and it's still like you're moving it inch by inch. But yeah, so I had to go through that whole process. I think that's what you asked me.
I did, yes.
But I do think it comes back to relationships, and once one librarian believes in you and your community, and you've done a good workshop and you've done a good program, I always try to do partnerships. The first thing I did was I partnered with my local librarian. We tried to get a grant together. Did a few workshops. And another librarian asked me to do a workshop. And that's the same thing with teachers too. And that's how it kind of slowly builds. So I'm much better at it locally, but yeah, working on them. I went to things like ALA, we both did that. And so yeah, that's the whole thing. I should mention Moni just to, yeah. And so it's like,
going kind of along those lines of partnership, Brian, I want to ask you this because Fanbase Press is kind of an outlier on this panel in that you have staff. So maybe also, though, answering this question from before you were large enough to have anybody working with you, but also now, what do you outsource, delegate, or intentionally avoid doing yourself?
Well, I guess I should reveal a little bit about that. Technically, Barbara and I do the lion's share of the work. We do have very select and dear friends and colleagues who we have given staff positions at the company. They tend to help us with things like this convention. We have a few extra hands here at this convention helping watch the table while we're on this panel, or help film interviews and things like that, sell the books. But generally, we do not have an employed staff consistently. That's still been something that we have, I guess, not been able to achieve as of yet. But when we're delegating things, I think it really is stuff that we feel like we can hand off. Most of the creative decisions of the company are through Barbara and I, but we have people that help us co-host the podcasts, do interviews, interact with our peers, and I think it's really people that we trust to understand the values of the company and to represent the company when we get to do things like this fun panel.
Cool. Barbara, anything to add to that?
No, I think it just goes back to everything that Justin, I think you had mentioned earlier in terms of finding your people and finding the perfect collaborators. And I think that, you know, when you find those people that you really gel with, you want to keep them close, and you want to both reward them, but also also share in the creative process. You want to be able to provide them with resources when you have them, because I think that's the benefit of the community. If you have something that you can offer to someone else, why not share it with them?
And I'll add just one more thing I think this illustrates is one thing that it's really important as an indie creator to know and to be able to take advantage of in certain ways is I guess what I would call that, what's behind the curtain. You know, we live in a world that is so based on perception, especially with social media, and I personally would not encourage anyone to necessarily lie or propagandize themselves, but I do think it's important to understand that there's always going to be a face to the creator, a public face to the creator, a public face to the company, and then what is truly going on behind the scenes. And so when we have something like offering a staff position to a creator, or even just posting, pictures from San Diego, there's a perception that is beyond our control, that is out there. And keeping an optimistic point of view, including people under your umbrella, as Barbara mentioned, these all, for us, project a image that we've chosen, an image of optimism, image of community. And so I think it's important to know how to use those tools and project the image that you want to out to the world.
Cool. Okay, so I just want to make sure we have enough time for audience Q&A, but if we could just do like rapid fire down the row. If someone in this audience leaves with only one action item, what's the single most important thing they should do in the next 30 days to move their comics career forward? I'll start with Ryan.
Me, okay. I would probably suggest starting an email list. An email list is your lifeline as a creator. This is supposed to be fast, right? Okay, start an email list. Ask somebody for their email. Don't be afraid to do it, and then keep asking.
Justin.
I would say build community. Barbara and Bryant both mentioned this, but just very quickly to kind of illustrate the point. I mean, I met Ryan 20 years ago, and we've collaborated in various ways. Understand that, building community takes time to build genuine relationships with people. It's not about trying to leverage someone more famous than you to see what they can do for you. I met Barbara and Bryant, I think 15 years ago. Art and I have known each other 14 years, and it's taken this long to coalesce, and we all work together in different ways now.
Well, piggyback on that, talking about building community, I've met some new friends, Dory and EJ. Then they're doing the job of meeting people, but talking to them, my suggestion is make it. But just saying make it isn't a thing. So what it is, make it and break that down into steps with check marks and start checking things off. Because if you're not making anything, you have nothing to talk about, nothing to show, make it. But make those steps to make it. Make it. Make it, make it, make it.
All those were really great. Now I get to see a different thing. That's behind the curtain. So I think look at what your projects are, and if you haven't, write a mission statement, even if it's just for yourself, because I know I didn't do that right away, and I think it gives you a good tunnel. You need to think about what you're trying to say to the world instead of just trying to say a lot of different things, so that it can hold your projects together and hold your titles together.
I'm going to piggyback on that.
Okay.
I'm going to say that you should engage yourself in a really honest conversation about what it is that you want.
Mm-hmm.
What are you looking to do with your creative career? What do you want out of it? Do you simply want to make art, which that's a noble pursuit. That's wonderful, but know that going into this. And then to piggyback on what Jessica said, once you know why you're doing this, create a strategic plan for the next 6 months, for the next year, for the next 5 years, so that you can hold yourself accountable at those checkpoints. Now, could your plans change when you get to 6 months, when you get to a year, when you get to 5 years? Absolutely. You should always revisit what your goals were, and they can shift, that's fine, but have those goals. Hold yourself accountable, review them, and adjust as needed.
I'll just second what Art was saying. I think create is the big thing. Don't wait. so many of us, myself included, wait for something perfect to be ready before we can actually move forward. That's not how it works. Just create, let it be messy, let it be wrong, build off of that, don't stop, keep going, and go beyond your first work. Keep creating after your first work, because you don't want to stop. You want to constantly be moving forward.
Well, thank you all. Does anybody have a question? Yes.
It's comics or books? Just. Okay, sorry. I just wanted to know.
Sounds like you're.
No, I didn't. I just wanted to clarify before. For me, I would, if you have people that you know who have already done it, I would ask them who they use, and then kind of see what's in your price range. So first, if we're just talking about printer, is that what we're talking about? Yeah, it's like, so with comics, there's a lot of great printers, but I think the best thing to do is to ask people who they use, if they're happy with the way things, like, is it fast? Do they meet their deadlines? Does the printer actually do what it says it's gonna do? Can the printer do it? What is the cost for like so many pages? Because you could go international, like with me, I have to, like for my floppies, I am in the US, and I don't wanna say who I use because I think they're having some kind of implosion right now, but I'm not sure, so I have to research that. But I've been happy with them up until now. And that's great, but for my hardcovers, I have to go to China. And then you have to research, and I do think the best way to do, I called 30 US printers, and they were all, there was no way I could do it as an indie creator. I'm not saying it's not possible now, but it's like doing that research, but it's a lot easier if you know some people to ask. I'm gonna stop so somebody else can.
I'll
Yeah.
echo some of that, which is find creators who you like and their work that they like, ask them who they use. That's word of mouth always helps, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, at the very least, 3 quotes.
Yeah.
Just in general, as a producer, like we're always looking for 3 quotes.
With samples.
And samples.
Samples, yeah.
And then, especially if it's the first time you work with them, man, is it hard when they say, we just give you a PDF proof. I know, because I sent you that PDF. You're sending me the exact same file. I want a physical proof as much as possible. Even if it adds 2 weeks to the process, it's so important, because if you don't get the physical proof and they send you a 1,000 pieces of junk, you're stuck with it. Or you're fighting them in court for it, which then you're losing more money. So physical proofs are important. Build that into your timeline.
I think we have time for one last question, and if you don't get to ask your question, our panelists will be out in the hallway afterwards, so you can talk to them there. But yes.
Is there a limit?
You
Go
need,
ahead, Ryan.
yeah, you should
There-
go, Ryan.
There is not a limit in terms of how many projects you can run on a platform like Kickstarter unless you start not fulfilling your projects. So at some point, they do check in to see, hey, are you launching
Running a
additional
scam.
projects without having fulfilled the past 1, 2, 3? And then they might put a limit on you. In terms of your own bandwidth, you got to balance it with creation, time to promote, time to make the project, time to fulfill the project, and then do that cycle all over again. So for me, I'm lucky if I can do 1 a year, but I know folks who do multiples a year. You just have to sort of gauge that. So if you've never done a crowdfunding project before, start with that first one and see how it goes. And I would not start by saying, I'm going to do 12 this year. But
Wow.
just start with 1 and see how long that process takes you, from project creation to setup to launch and promotion to printing and then fulfillment. And that's a healthy chunk of time. And then what does that cycle take to do again? It'll get shorter as you do more of them, but it takes a healthy chunk of time. So is there a limit to the amount you can do? there is a limit to the amount of time we have in a day. So yes.
And I would think if you haven't ever done one, you want to do one all the way through first, and you want to deliver that good to the people that you're going to ask for more support for them in the future. So you don't want to plan to do 3 right off the bat. You want to do 1 and make sure that you can do it all the way, you don't accidentally lose money, and that you are able to deliver them first. But then, I can't do more than 2 right now a year, but someday maybe.
Yeah,
but,
I'm doing 3 for the first time, and I'm losing my mind.
Yeah,
And,
so-
and then, but we do have a mutual friend who does, I think, 1 a month.
yeah,
He's an absolute monster, though.
yeah, don't do that.
I will also offer that tomorrow at 2 p.m., I can check on the room after this and let folks know if you're interested in the hallway, but I'll be moderating a panel on behalf of Kickstarter with a panel of creators talking about how to kickstart, basically the do's and don'ts of kickstarting your first comic. So highly encourage folks to attend if you're interested.
One last thing to mention is that Kickstarter relies heavily on audience trust. And if you start creating multiple campaigns and don't fulfill things, then people aren't going to trust you anymore. So just like Jessica was mentioning on that first campaign especially, run it all the way through. Fulfill, make sure everybody is happy before you do anything else following that up. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's about all the time we have today. I want to thank all of you for joining us and thank all of our panelists. This has been great.
Thank you, everybody.